Good morning. I have taken a couple of pictures of moose tracks today. What I'm showing you right now is not a gargantuan moose as much as an example of melt and refreeze related track distortion, just to make the point. This is huge. This is probably closer to normal size. There is a moose cow that's native to this stretch of woods, and although she has not been seen today, my foot for comparison, she obviously has been around nibbling on this stuff, like all the little bulbs and things, I bet. But just a little bit of something to show today, and just to make the point, she has gone off into the woods over this way and is probably traversing the state line between Connecticut and Mass right now. So, not sure if these are, given the distortion of the track behind me, I don't know how recently she's been here because it's been warm during the day. It's not too far because the distortion isn't that bad, but 48 hours or more, I would guess. But that's my check-in for this. I just thought that might be kind of neat to show you. I'm going to continue on though, and just thought it'd be a nice thing to show. Every now and then you get something like this that I can actually share with you guys. So that's going to be the end of this segment, and we'll move on. And not far from the state line, and I know that because there's a physical marker that marks it. We have previously been tracking a moose. I have gotten a copy of some melt and refreeze distortion to kind of make the point, and some shots of the moose tracks themselves. And again, the backstory there is that in this particular stretch of woods, there is a moose cow that probably beds down in here because in the last 2 to 3 years, she has left most of her tracks here, leading me to think there's a lot of laurel over in that area, and from the other side of that particular large patch, I believe I have mentioned in the past, it's a very good way, if you're not careful, to run up unexpectedly on either her or a resident bear, of which we have a few. I know of at least 3 or 4 different individuals. And based on visual confirmation, about a month ago, there's at least 1 or 2 coy wolves in here. And I have seen the coy wolf cross the road in front of my car departing in November, close enough to know that it is in fact not a coyote. But because of the peculiar nature of the head and the overall size of the animal, I am definitely leaning towards it being a hybridized coy wolf and not a coyote. The implications of their temperament not necessarily being known. So, something to be aware of in here. As for up and coming plans, since the day is otherwise fairly quiet, so far anyway, in the next few weeks, I may be doing a first lookabout in the northeastern Recon area towards the end of March or beginning of April to assess conditions, potential activity if I can get in there. It's still probably tricky this time of year to pull that off, but we'll see about that and how that plays out. So, as for the recent activity in this particular area, I think it's Bambi track set over here. Came down for a drink or to walk in the mud. One of the two. We had had a series of wood knocks, and then a couple of weeks ago we had actually tried to get the drone overhead and try to see, because as you can see there's no leaves on the trees, so whatever's wood knocking doesn't really have the cover it would like to when it's doing that. So we had an interesting little game of hide and seek with them and the drone, probably 3 weeks ago, and then the week after that it's been quiet. And then last week when I was in the area, there was a tree break, source of which is unknown, but given the other continuing pattern of interesting activity, it's worth noting. And a friend of mine is in an adjacent area this week, so I gave him kind of a heads up that if they are about and they have moved into a different part of the greater neighborhood, he should probably keep his ears open because they may be around that area. So it's worth noting. And here we have a track set, probably more, yeah. Bambi has been in the neighborhood. Nice little wetland over there, if I can catch that on the GoPro knockoff. And the quick commentary there is, given the fact that the camera I have on my pack is like a $50 camera and GoPros are ridiculously expensive, and they have basically all the same connectors and all the same capabilities, you be the judge. But I really don't see the logic in spending that much money when there's a reasonable alternative that does pretty well in terms of video quality. The one thing it doesn't do that well, and I have kind of given up trying to fine-tune it, is set the clock on it. If you've noticed in many a video, it starts out in 2019 and then somehow reverts back to 1970 somehow, which is actually kind of just an amusing thing to me at this point, because it does that without any help. So this area has been logged in the past. I don't know if they're done. It'd be nice. There was potential activity here last year, and I do think the logging has disrupted it, which I find irritating. Not in my control, but irritating. But I'm just looking here real quick. Most of the activity has been, I'll take a picture too while we're here. But most of the activity that I've had has been near little waterways like this, which is a large part of my methodology. In Vermont in particular, there's an intertwining series of bogs and connecting rivers and streams. If you ever wondered the method to my madness up there, that's basically it. The old saying among some of the older school people in the community is they follow the streams, and there is truth in that. And if you are a true, tried and true person who holds to the flesh and blood theory over the woo nonsense, and yeah, I went there, it has to drink. The first and foremost thing that will kill it first is a lack of hydration. Like any other large animal that requires water, it has to go to drink. So you walk the waterways. And that does not always put you in the most convenient locations, but that is how things operate. And I have had success in spite of claims to the contrary by those not in the position to know. If anyone's watching this video and that sounds familiar, you know who you are. But we'll leave that where it is, rather than get another snit going inadvertently. If it is here's my thought on the woo in a nutshell, since I brought that up. The woo being the paranormal side of this. I have seen some weird stuff to some degree in my time doing this, but not sufficient to convert me to that way of thinking. And the bad news is for people that would like to see this thing solved, if that is in fact what it is, something supernatural, then all the wood knocking and cameras and things of this nature, all the technology is probably for naught, because if it is something paranormal, then it's probably playing by its own set of rules. And that's not going to do us any good. So at that point, you're out of luck. But me and Bambi seem to be the only thing making tracks out here, because with it being open like this, you can kind of see out a ways. And there's no discernible tracks beyond mine and Bambi's. And I either walked through here a couple of weeks ago, or a hunter might have been through here. But beyond that, not really a lot apparently going on. I'm not hearing any wood knocks or things like that either, so it could be that my buddy's having better luck. I won't know that till I get back and listen into his, if he makes a video today. Not that I'm endorsing the YouTube thing past the point, but it does kind of serve a purpose to share efforts. But beyond that, I myself am not monetized, because that's too much. I don't have the time to keep up with it. And I don't believe in using this for profit and speech, but I'm not in it for Patreon clicks. And I do kind of have a little bit of a disagreement with the folks that are. Mainly that once you stop being a person pursuing the mystery as more of an investigator or a researcher, depending on how you see it, and you feel like you're more of a content producer, I'm sorry, but to me that just changes and clouds your judgment as far as how you pursue this. You're looking at that point to make better and better videos, which is creatively great, but there's a point where you stop being a researcher and you start becoming a YouTube entertainer. And one is not the other. And I'm not going to put a name to that, because there are numerous examples. And if you follow YouTube stuff around Bigfoot, I don't need to explain. They're pretty obvious. And feel free to disagree, but people watch this stuff on YouTube for their own reasons too. But since it's rather windy, which probably impacts my ability to hear out past the point, although I'm about to make another point, and that would be this. Hear the wind, see the tree. A lot of your forest floor level debris, I'll call it that. Some people would call it structures. Not everything is a structure. And 99.9% of them are not Bigfoot related. This is wind damage. Plain and simple wind damage. And a lot of the crap on the ground came down exactly the same way. And I know this for a fact, because this is the same exact area where my drone got grabbed by the wind and taken for a ride for about half a mile before it crashed, and I had to get it repaired. And I do actually believe that I posted that video right after Christmas, the ups and downs video, where I kind of showed some of the less opportune moments that occur out here. I guess some could actually call that some kind of a blooper reel, but Bigfooting is not an exact science, or else we'd already have found one. I believe that is also fairly self-obvious, and that's why I don't hold the strongest affinity to the stick structure theory, because if they were that common and they were doing it that much, aside from the fact I've never seen a single video, blurry, altered, or photoshopped or otherwise, of an ape-looking person playing with sticks and making any kind of a structure. That is the very epitome of speculation on somebody's part way back when, and internet copycatting on my part, or on the part of others, in my opinion. That is probably not the popular opinion in the community, but it is the right one. skepticism first, and then you assume skepticism first, and then when you find something genuinely weird and out of place, it gets the proper scrutiny. When Bigfoot did everything, there's no scrutiny, there's no filter, and there's no real effort being made. God forbid you walk into the woods and you actually try to find a set of tracks or something. And obviously not snowmobile tracks, but you get my point. We are going to, at this point, end the segment and take a break and move in reverse. And just going to see if there's anything that kind of makes any presence felt when I go through here. But otherwise, I think what we had happen prior, and I'm probably going to get my feet wet here, maybe not, is going to go down as a false alarm, but you never know. Still, when something like that happens, I do find it valid to kind of go in and have a look before you totally just dismiss it. One day you might actually get lucky and have something. I actually did, once upon a time, inadvertently have, I guess I am kind of giving up part of a sighting from 2 years ago, but I actually have, like, if you're out, looks like they were planning to do some logging in here. That sucks. They always mess things up. Always been curious the sense of their timing of it too, because there has been stuff potentially going on in here. Anyway, I have had at like 100 feet something jump up and run off, and do so on 2 feet. So it does not happen often, but it does happen. I don't know if I'm going to include that in the video or not, though. I don't like to make claims without having anything to back it up. And we'll just say that that was an interesting day. Got some Bambi tracks. Fresh ones, too, not the old ones. But how close are they going to get to the wetland? They say they do it for the health of the forest. I am of mixed opinions on that. But that's tricky because with the wind and the creaking noises, you hear something in the distance and it's kind of hard to tell what it is or isn't. But trying to stay out of the undergrowth because of ticks, but it's not proving that easy. I do have some permethrin on though, so from the ground up anyway, I should be all right. I don't feel like going through the stream, but I don't really hear anything either, so. And again, not a stick structure. The lovely cracking sound of older shoulder muscles. Joys thereof. All right, so we're down by the wetland, and I am being conscious of the wind, as in Widowmakers. We got a couple of hollow spots where it's like that, where it's deeper than it looks in here. But that would be interesting, but that easily could be me, because I've been down here in recent weeks. And with melt and refreeze distortion again, that easily could make me look like the object of my searching. In the course of coming through an area like this in repetition, you have to remember your own steps so that you don't create your own false positives in research efforts. But other than that one moment of interest, which may or may not be a false alarm, I think that we are, at least at this point, thinking it's going to be an all quiet kind of day in here. So maybe Chris had better luck to the west of here. I can say that much without totally giving away where he went. Yeah, because that's what that looks like. The two over there look like this. And that is basically the result of me walking over the stream, although you can't see the stream, and then breaking through the crust and leaving a dent of that nature. And I'll probably do it again before I hit the trail. But because right here you can hear the stream. And I can see exactly on this side of the log that if you step on that, you're going to go right through. You don't see it, but you can plainly hear the water going down the hill. But yeah, the blue paint on the trees is where they intend to probably log in here at some time, which sucks because it kind of kills the ambiance of the area. And if there is a neighborhood group for a while, it's going to disrupt them and they'll probably leave. So Logger is kind of right up there with Quatters as some of my less than favorite people. Quatters in particular because this area has a sign at the trailhead that clearly says no vehicles. And obviously you saw the snowmobile tracks. Quatters are snowmobilers in the winter. In the winter, they can pack down a trail and be somewhat useful, but in the springtime, when they go through all the mud, they chew up the trail system. And especially when they think the rules don't apply to them, which is very often. I mean, if you're in an area where they allow that, great. But in a case like this, they don't allow it here, and yet people do it anyway. And then, I'm sorry, but if you get a ticket doing it, you deserve it. But if you're a quatter and you disagree, oh well. I've known too many people that have woodland property that have had trouble with people that go through their property when they don't want them there. And there's a lot of entitlement in that group of people and their mindset. And it does not advertise well for their hobby. Anyway, we are getting close to the trail, so I don't really see any recent signs of any activity down here other than people potentially marking trees. But that being said, we're gonna end this segment and head out. So a happy Saturday to all. We had one moment of interest, a lot of my big fat opinion, and some moose tracks. So yeah, happy Saturday. We're going to end the segment here.